Hi, I'm Jason Rome. I'm the head of digital solutions for Method, and I lead the product strategy and experience design offering for GlobalLogic. It's an exciting field because it's really changed over the last couple of years where product is being asked to do much more than they've done before. And, it started as the group of people that, talked to the business and brought those requirements in for the engineers. But what we've seen now is the business is asking more and more for the commercially minded product manager. How is product and digital going to drive value truly for the business? And I think, it's gone beyond the mandate of help us get the right requirements, but help us think about what the right thing we should be doing and how it drives value for the business. And I think in an age where companies are demanding a little bit more of digital from a return standpoint than they had in the past, we're seeing the need to kind of step up into that role. And so I think for Method, it's not only doing the work, but helping organizations through our modern product framework, level up their whole organization to take a more commercially focused product. And on the experience design side, with the advent of design systems, with the evolution of design, experience design, why I love that term instead of just product design, is it goes beyond the end-to-end experience. And so it's truly looking at the end-to-end touch point of that end-to-end life cycle of the customer and how they experience the brand. And, brand is one of those things that it used to be a specific thing. It used to be the aspect of marketing, but really today we see brand as every interaction a customer has with you is a part of your brand experience. And that's where experience design comes in, of really connecting all of those disparate touch points into a kind of a single unified experience that represents who you are to that customer and represents that relationship. And so, I think for Method on that side, really thinking through that in a very intentional way, but tying it back to the core business strategy is what we're able to do to differentiate. I think what we're seeing, a lot of people have always used that Venn diagram that shows, engineering, design, and product happening in the middle. And they barely intersect and touch with that Venn diagram. But I think that's true of how those groups work. But when it comes through thinking through the strategy, there's a lot more overlap than there has been previously. And I think with the advent of technologies like AI, with Gen AI, with evolving, types of architecture, with the advent of design systems and component libraries, I think by having product design and engineering collaborate much farther upstream than they've done previously and really be a seamless team, those architects, those engineers, they can bring trends, they can bring new ways of working that accelerates value way faster than it used to be. Instead of just having them interpret the requirements, we go through something called initiative boarding and low fidelity alignment conversations, which is we don't ask the engineers anymore, how long will this take? We ask them, what will make this go faster or what will make this slower? And so we're bringing them in, we're elevating the voice of architecture and kind of shifting it left further in the product and design process so that we can identify up front, hey, what are the downstream implications of what we're considering? So before we even start writing requirements, before we even doing research, we understand what are those rocks that we're going to have to navigate based on the potential hurdles we might find in our existing architecture, in modernization initiatives, in the limitations we might have with our platform ecosystem, and using the architects and engineers as problem solvers as part of that trinity, not just as a component of executing the work. With modern product, over the last 10, 15 years, companies went through this where everyone was a software company. We're not a bank, we're a software company. We're not a healthcare provider, we're a software company. And the buzz had been around agile transformation. Fast forward to today, and a lot of people are looking at agile and agile ways of working and asking hey, have we actually gotten the agility from a business perspective that we've been hoping to get? And a lot of times, the agile transformation was driven as inside the office of the chief digital officer or the chief technology officer, when really, doing agile well, and why we focus on product, and when we say product, we mean product-centric organization, not the role of product, is so that we can connect strategy, planning, discovery, delivery, and ultimately the culture of a company to do work more effectively. And so we're coming into organizations and looking at, where's the bottleneck? Where is work getting stuck? If we learn something about what we need to do as a company, if we had a CEO level initiative tomorrow that was going to create competitive advantage, if we could get that to market, where do things get stuck? Is it in empowerment? Is it in decision making? Is it in the design? Is it in the getting the right requirements? Is it identifying those dependencies? Is it in deploying the code and getting it into QA? And so we've been collaborating as an organization to go in and talk to CPOs and CTOs together and talk about, hey, how do we connect upstream what you're doing for the business and connecting to that value, making sure that strategy, that vision is really well articulated, to going into a better discussion around what are our assumptions? What do we need to learn? How do we plan better? How do we bring the voice of the user in before we start developing? But then making sure, when we do this work, you don't get engineering time back. If those engineers aren't working on the right thing, or they don't have the requirements in time, you never get that time back. And so really focusing on that, the engineering team having the right things to work on in the right way at the right pace as the hero of that, but looking at all the things that have to be true upstream to get to that. That's how we're deploying modern product, and it's just driving value quickly through the ecosystem. Sorry, we turn that off. So there's a couple ways that we work with organizations. For organizations that are trying to get their arms around what's going on in the org, how are my people doing, how are my leaders doing, how are my teams performing in a cross-functional way. We've got a pretty simple survey that looks across the entire ecosystem, across these interconnected systems. And why the leaders love it is they get data back that says, hey, this is what my leadership team thinks we're doing, and this is how the team feels we're doing. This is what Scrum Team 1 thinks we're doing, this is Scrum Team 2. This is how engineering feels, this is how product feels. So we start to identify those tension points of like, okay, how do our beliefs match up in terms of the lived experience of our people? And we pull those quotes in. And then sometimes we'll do interviews and kind of go deeper with those teammates. And then, but what we do is we don't just turn those results around and give you a set of recommendations. We pull your leadership team together and we present that information to you and say, hey, this is what we're hearing. How does it match up with what you guys see? Is this stuff you're working on? Is this a set of known knowns? We do a pretty deep documentation review. So we say, hey, give us your ways of working, show us your dashboards, give us screenshots of Jira, show us those expectations for teams. And so it's something that we co-create with that leadership team, and it's very intentional. For Global Logic, we work with companies in very different industries. Doing product at a FDA-regulated healthcare company versus a bank versus a private equity-funded SaaS company is going to look very different. And so we try to be really intentional, and by bringing those leaders along for the ride, one, we're not going to tell them things that they already know. Two, they get to kind of experience not only our recommendations, but our way of thinking about it and explore those problems. Three, sometimes we're finding the CTO, the chief product officer, the head of design, the head of the PMO, they don't get a ton of time to just sit and talk about how they work together. They're very busy people in their day-to-day. And so by forming these conversations, sometimes it's this kind of beautiful joining moment of bringing those folks together. And then we turn that into very actionable recommendations. I think a lot of people have been reorged to death. They've been agile transformed to death over the last couple of years. So they're a little bit wary of like, oh, you're going to come in and then it's going to take 6 months before we start deploying this. And we look for things that, hey, you could start doing this in 4 hours. You could do this the next PI, because the key thing for modern product is, you wouldn't write a story or a feature and expect a developer to just have magically more time for that. And change takes time. It takes capacity. And so we'll come up with, here's the top 2 things you should start doing in the next 12 weeks. And after that, here's the next things you should do. So it's very intentional. It's very stepwise. And we're looking at what's the number one thing we could go do and get value tomorrow. Sometimes that's getting your arms around tech debt. Sometimes that's having definitions of ready. Sometimes that's articulating business success measures so that the team can organize around that. Sometimes it's aligning on culture. Sometimes it's having better documentation of your interim architecture. And so it's a 3 to 4 week process. With clients, we do it with existing accounts, we do it with new accounts. And it's a really easy way for us to get started. And ultimately, it lets us be a better partner with our clients. Because if we can understand their ways of work and how they want to work, one of the questions we always ask leaders is, hey, coming out of this, where do you want us to guide you? Where are you looking for recommendations on different ways to work? Where do you want us to model behaviors, which is, hey, this is how we want to work. We're just not doing it. Can you guide the way and teach our teams? And where do you want us to do the work, which is, hey, we know this isn't perfect, but we have work to get done. Can you execute there? And so coming out of it, we understand the challenges of the organization. It might not be perfect. We understand where they'd like to change, and it allows us to work more efficiently and more effectively on the right things. One of the experiences we've had working with a lot of these teams is, teams go out and they read the books of all of the Silicon Valley startup companies that have written, they had a successful exit, and hey, this is what we did. But working at a venture capital funded, not yet profitable SaaS company, versus a highly regulated bank with an annual funding structure, driven out of the Office of Finance are very different. And so we like to say, hey, the skills from startups, but execution for the enterprise. And so it's taking what you can learn from those different ways of working, but just being pragmatic of the realities of what you're not going to change in the enterprise. The realities of, there's over $1 trillion of tech debt estimated in the U.S. ecosystem right now that has to be modernized. And so it just kind of deals with those realities. But this work is some of the most fun work in the world. Like, this is a great job, and it should be really fun. And when it's not fun, it's usually not because the product they're working on is not fun. It's usually because the relationships people have and the way they're treating each other and the culture and the way they're showing up every day in their work has taken the fun out of it. And you hear people talk about death marches and bureaucracy and working in silos, and really that's what we're trying to adjust, because this is one of the best jobs in the world. Like, how many jobs do you have where every day is different? You never do the same thing twice. And so we want it to be a great fun, just solving problems with a fun group of people. For Gen AI, for us right now, we see a lot of people in a tough position. I meet with leaders and they're being asked to drive business value, but doing it with no legal or security risk, with their data team telling it's going to take them forever to get their data, structured and up and running, and then really being bombarded by hundreds of different vendor offers and in the market and emails every day. And so, for us, when it comes to Gen AI or really AI or data monetization overall, we're trying to take a step back and help people look at, okay, let's look at our end-to-end value stream of how work happens in our organization, from how we interact with customers and our frontline workers to our middle and back office to all the way down to our supply chain, and say, where is their work being done? Where is their decisions being made? Where AI can generate value that's going to drive us forward, or where can we start rethinking of the systems in our business with AI at the center of that? And where are those points where we can drive value while not having risk? And really for us right now, the people that are going to win in AI aren't going to be the ones that deployed the tool first. These tools are going to continue to evolve. They're going to be ones that their people understand how to use the tools. They've trained the tools better. They've started treating data like a first-class citizen in everything they do. And so for us right now, it's a lot about, yes, let's deploy it, but let's start building the muscle as an organization for kind of thinking in this new data-driven world and getting your whole organization operating that way, whether it's AI or Gen AI.